You're going to enjoy this episode of In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics, because it's Steeler Week. And who better to talk to in Steeler Week than the legendary Ken Anderson? Multiple-time Pro Bowl quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals, league MVP for the Cincinnati Bengals in 1981, then coach for the Cincinnati Bengals and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Who knows more about the rivalry than Ken Anderson? And he's going to give you a lot of good information about that rivalry. And boy, it is a heated battle every time the Cincinnati Bengals and Pittsburgh Steelers tee it up. And there'll be no exception this Sunday afternoon. It is going to be a slobber knocker. Who's going to be the most physical? That's who wins the football game. Ken Anderson tells us all about it. Thanks very much for joining us once again. You're in the Trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. And our very special guest today is very appropriate for so many reasons, and that is none other than the legendary, iconic, number 14 in your program, number 1 in your heart, the Ring of Honor member himself, quarterback extraordinaire, Ken Anderson.
I'm only iconic because I was your roommate for all those years, Dave. I mean, let's face it, that was the highlight of my career.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you joining us, sir. This is a very appropriate time because you had a Hall of Fame career as a player with the Cincinnati Bengals at that quarterback position, and then you coached with the Bengals and with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So you know this game very intimately in a lot of different levels, a lot of different perspectives. This one's going to be a Donnybrook, isn't it?
Well, it is. I think both teams are not really happy where they're at right now, especially the Steelers. Although they had a really nice win last week, and the Bengals going into the bye had a big win. But, I think with the expectations we had of them coming off a Super Bowl year, that they're probably a little bit disappointed being a 5-4 record, and with Jamar Chase out a little bit. So I think both teams are kind of, right at the same spot entering this game.
It's a very interesting point, and both of them come off 200-yard rushing days. Pittsburgh rushes the ball for 217 yards. The Bengals rush it for 241 yards. I mean, both teams want to do that. I wonder which team will be able to build off of that. Pittsburgh did it last week against the Saints, the Bengals a couple of weeks ago against Carolina, and then take the bye week. From a quarterback's perspective, when your football team is rushing it for 200, how different is the game?
Well, that is from an offensive lineman, Dave. It makes our job so much easier.
Sure.
That now, they're not tying their ears back and rushing the passer, and the play action pass opens up deeper throws down the middle, dropping back. They got to be concerned about the run on their first step, so you've got just a little bit more time. And it's always been in the DNA of the Steelers that they want to run the football. Back ever since we played them, starting in the mid-'70s, that was always the focus, is running the football and playing defense. And I think that continues. Mike Tomlin is an unbelievable coach. I got to spend 3 years with him, and I've got the utmost respect, for him. But, I was glad to see the Bengals, a week ago get back to that. You and I have talked, all of a sudden they're under center a little bit more.
Yep.
It's not always shotgun runs. And all of a sudden now it's a little bit different blocking scheme. Linemen are pulling to create holes. And I think that really helped Joe Mixon out.
I agree. I mean, they were very versatile, and they had the gap running game where they were pinning and pulling linemen. Like you said, they were running counters, they were running powers, they're running traps. They're getting big bodies out on smaller defensive backs, and really not the linemen did a great job, but so did the tight ends and the wide receivers when they were coming down and cracking and pinning guys. Everybody blocked so well for Joe Mixon, and he responded big time, didn't he?
Well, he did, and we know he's a good running back, not only running the football, but coming out of the backfield. But, the running game, it takes, all 10 guys, the quarterback with the fake, the offensive lineman doing their jobs. the wide receivers and tight end are critical if you want to get more than 5 yards on a run, coming in and blocking safeties and those kind of things. So, no, it was just nice to kind of sit back there. And all of a sudden, Joe Burrow's not as under as much pressure as he's been in the last couple of weeks. And he responds by having another good game.
Yeah. I mean, Kenny, I swear, you guys, when I watch him throw the football, I do see your mechanics. I'm not saying that you guys are identical, but I thought you were the purest passer I'd ever seen from a mechanic standpoint. I mean, it was impeccable. You wrote the book, The Art of Quarterbacking, and rightfully so. And what in any video that anybody can get of Ken Anderson throwing the football, that's what you should show to your young quarterbacks. Joe Burrow, I think, has a lot of the things that you did so well. What do you think about Joe Burrow and his ability and his mechanics throwing the football, Kay?
Well, number one, he's extremely accurate, and there are certain things, that a quarterback does that are God-given talent, and that's throwing a football from point A to point B, knowing where you want it to go. Sure, footwork can make it better, but I go back to Sonny Jurgensen. Back in the day, before me, I mean, his arm could be sidearm over the top, behind his back, and the ball goes where he wants it to go. And I always stressed, with Bill Walsh, that was always the thing for me is footwork. And you talk to Steve Young, and he says, if you film me from the waist down, I can tell you whether I had a good game or not. Oh. And I think Joe's got those qualities, but he's got the God-given ability. He can throw the ball accurately.
I'm telling you, he really can. You guys can forget it, drop it in a bucket. You guys can drop it in the head of a needle. I mean, it's incredible how accurate you guys can be. And I thought in this last football game against Carolina, even with the running game and the play action, they still had pretty good coverage. He had to throw the ball into some tight spots to make some of his completions. The touchdown pass he threw to Joe Mixon when he got out of pocket and created an extended, was a very, very accurate throw. He had to trust his receivers first and foremost to make plays and put it in good spots, didn't he?
No, he does, and I think that's the toughest thing. I mean, he's still in his third year. He's still a young quarterback, and I think the biggest difference between college and the pros is what's open and what's not open. And Joe understands that it may be thrown at shoulder, it may be thrown at low and away, to a certain spot. It's a back shoulder show. My God, it's a thing of beauty that he does with Jamar Chase on those back shoulder throws along the sideline. And again, that goes back to their college days and working on stuff like that. But it's like I say, I think the big thing for them is that they can keep the defense honest. It takes so much pressure off the offensive line, and gosh, I think I saw one stat that Joe, between last year and this year, has been sacked 100 times. That's not sustainable for a quarterback's health. And, but like last week, they got back to a little bit more balanced attack, and he's not getting hit as much. And I think that's got to be one of the keys to the offense.
I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, third down and fourth quarter, money areas for quarterbacks. Joe Burrow on third down, his quarterback rating is 132.5, second best in the National Football League. He's completing a Ken Anderson-like 74.7%, almost 3 out of every 4 throws, 8 touchdowns, no interceptions. Then in the fourth quarter, over 67%, 6 touchdowns, just 1 interception, and a quarterback rating of 108.4, which is 6th best in the league. So third down and fourth quarter, 14 touchdown passes, 1 interception at money time. That's big, isn't it?
No, it is. And I think that's one of the things that you got to love about Joe. And Dave, we go back to the Paul Brown days, and one of his statements was, the game's not too big for him. And when the lights get bright, he doesn't shrink, I mean, and it goes back to LSU. I mean, the poise he had playing in the SEC, and, you're playing in big games every week, and then you're playing in a national championship game against Alabama, Clemson,
yep.
And you go ahead and, and you win that. He doesn't shrink in the big moments. And I think, and his leadership skills, I think, are off the chart. So, no, I mean, I don't know a lot about football, but I know one thing, that to be successful, you got to have a quarterback, and we've got ours for the foreseeable future.
There's no doubt about that. Pittsburgh Steelers, Kenny, are 3-6. Mike Tomlin's never had a losing record in 14 years as a head football coach. I think it's 14 years with the Pittsburgh Steelers. It might be 15 now. He's into his 15th, I think. So they come off of that victory. What is he? You know him, like you said, you coached with him for 3 years. During the season that they're going through with a rookie quarterback that he's now playing, Pickett. Pickett rushed for 51 yards. He complimented, 99 yards out of the running back, 51 yards out of the quarterback in that 200-yard rushing day. What's he telling his football team now, Kenny, as they get ready to play the Bengals?
Well, it's more about the Steelers than it is the Bengals. It's about, how we play rather than how our opponent plays. It's getting back, to playing Steeler football, which is sound defense, which is running the football, which is not turning it over. He does not panic, and, you have injuries up there, and it's their philosophy. It's the next man up. You're wearing a Steelers helmet. We expect you to do the job that the starter would do. And they've got a lot of confidence in him. They got a lot of confidence, playing at home, and they get T.J. Watt back, which I think is a big deal for them on their defense. And, like we've talked about, it's the Steelers ever since we've known them have been built on defense, and rushing the quarterback. And I think they're trying to get back to that philosophy. And, it ought to be interesting. I just got back from the Bengals equipment room and was talking to them. He just got a call from Pittsburgh, and they're sodding the middle of the field between the hatches. So that'll be, a little bit interesting thing, because that field at this time of year, depending, on how many college games, high school games. I remember when I was up there, we played on a Monday night against Miami. Well, there were 4 high school playoff games on Friday. Pitt played on Saturday. In the rain, they resodded the field on Sunday. And then we played on Monday, and it was still raining. And there was a punt in the game. The Dolphins punted, and it actually stuck nose first, in the mud on the turf. So, that field, can be a little bit tricky as well with the grass on there. So that'll be an interesting scenario to watch.
Yeah, no doubt. That's a good tip. Hopefully everybody's listening. We'll have to contact the Bengals organization, give them a heads up on that. Coach Anderson, I like it. Giving us a little scoop on the turf, the field conditions, the speed of the football game. Jamar Chase is a guy that takes the top off of defense, a la Isaac Curtis in your heyday. What does it do to a quarterback in an offense when you're missing that kind of a weapon?
Well, I think we saw it, when he first went down, but, they've got the talent, between Higgins and Boyd, and boy, I like the way this Hayden Hurst is playing at tight end, and, and the 2 Trents, came in and filled in as a third guy and had productive days for the Bengals. So they've got weapons, so it's, I think you like to have that speed guy in Jamar, but I think that they can, survive, a couple weeks till he comes back, hopefully.
The Pittsburgh Steelers defensive football team, they always have guys up front, and no exception with this football team. Is that where do the Pittsburgh Steelers, when they're drafting, Kenny, do they draft front to back, or how do they draft? What is their philosophy overall from a draft perspective?
Well, I think like most teams, they're going to take the best guy available. That to go to a defensive guy and pass up a higher rated offensive guy, they're not going to do that. But they have a style of player, that they want to have. And, with T.J. Watt, he's an exceptional pass rusher. And it's surprising almost with his injury to see that he's back this quick. But, they got other guys, up front that are good. And I think, isn't it Minka Fitzpatrick that's had the appendectomy? He's not going to be playing in the secondary this week. But, I think a lot of the secondary play, the guys stand out is because of the guys up front.
Yeah, there are no 2 ways about it. You coached Ben Roethlisberger, and part of his career there with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They've moved on from him. He's going to be wearing a gold jacket, like you'll be wearing a gold jacket in Canton. Pickett is a guy that is now playing. Trubisky, I thought the biggest thing Trubisky did in the opener was take care of the football. The Bengals went -5, Pittsburgh +5. You're not going to lose very often when you go +5. You're not going to win very often when you go -5, and that was the biggest deal in the football game. What is your opinion on Pruitt at this time? Or Pickett,
Yeah, I think he's got a chance to be a good player. And he's played a lot of football. I mean, I think he was at Pitt for 5 years.
Yep.
And he came out, he played a lot of football games, and he played well. He showed signs this year. I think, the Steelers would have liked if Trubisky would have played a little bit better, where they might have been able to, to let Pickett watch a little bit longer. But when it came to the point of the season, okay, our future is going to be Kenny Pickett. And he's done some outstanding things. You talk about running the football a little bit last week. He's shown that he's accurate. And he's made some rookie mistakes, that everybody does when you go through that. But I think that he's the future of the team, and I think they're just going to ride this out with him and see that he can't get better, and try to take the pressure off of him, playing good defense and running the football.
I know he's got a reputation for being accurate, and his completion percentage shows that 2 out of every 3, 66.7% in the top 10 in the NFL. But that's the only category that he's top 10. His quarterback rating is way down there, like 35, 2 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Like you said, it's a rookie, a rookie learning on the fly, learning on the job, so to speak. Do you think that's something that obviously that the Bengals will take into consideration? Lou Anarumo will give him one look pre-snap, another look post-snap. He'll be playing with that rookie's playing with his eyes and his mind a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think there's no question about that. It's you try to confuse a rookie a little bit. I think you pressure him. The Bengals have shown that they can put pressure on the quarterback, and you go after him a little bit, and like I say, don't show him the same thing twice. But he's in you talk about a perfect spot that the Steelers and Pitt's locker facilities are in the same building.
Right.
So he's going in one door instead of another, but it's the same parking lot that he's going to. So he's got a comfort level there. I think he's perfect for Pittsburgh. He's got the right kind of DNA for a quarterback for them. And like I said, I think his future is bright, but he's just going through a lot of learning experiences.
Tough place to play, though. I mean, that crowd support, it's always there, isn't it? It doesn't really deviate much. Is it one of the better venues to, from a home team standpoint, in your opinion?
Oh, no question about it. And I think if, you talk to the players on the Steelers, and you talk to the players around the year, that's probably rated one of the worst fields in the league to play on. And I know there have been several times that the club has wanted to go in and put, field turf in. And the players, no, that's our field. We adjust to that. And and it makes a big difference to kickers, playing on that surface. And they've always had a kicker that could handle that, going back to Jeff Reed when I was there. So no, and then, the fans, you ain't going to see many black and orange jerseys in that stands because it's hard to get tickets to go up there. And, it's an interesting stadium that, driving in and seeing the tailgates that are going on ahead of time and going on after the game. And, and like I said, it wasn't my choice to go to the Steelers and leave Cincinnati, but if I had to go to a place, that was a fun place to go for 3 years.
Got yourself a ring, my man.
Yes,
I love that.
Well, Dave, I will say that the ring has never made it to Cincinnati, but since I'm moving back here full time, it's going to have to come because I'm not getting rid of it.
No doubt about that. No question about it. You mentioned the field conditions, and this time of year, the weather could be an issue. Obviously, the wind coming off the river there, the Three Rivers. I mean, the little confluence of Three Rivers there. What the wind conditions are always an issue, aren't they?
Oh, no question about it. And it's, not unlike our stadium. Paycor Stadium now, it's open on the end zones. You have the end zone seats, but there's slots that go in there so the wind can kind of come and it can kind of swirl. So you got to pay attention to it, what's going on. And again, that leads to playing good defense and running the football.
Yeah, that's basically what it's going to come down to. I mean, this one, you have to bring physicality to this football game. I mean, there's no doubt that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to play hard. Now, will they play smart? That's a variable that, is tougher to control, but you can control effort, and they will give effort, won't they?
Oh, no, there's no question about it. And that's, I mean, it's not only Mike Tomlin. It goes back to Cowher. It goes back to Chuck Noll. I mean, it goes back to the mid-'70s when we played them, Dave. And it's always, what the coaches say, bring your lunchbox. It's going to be, that kind of, day, and bring the extra chin strap because it's going to be physical. You know what it's going to be going into the game. You just have to prepare mentally for it.
Yeah, there are no two ways about it. So when you were getting ready to play against the Pittsburgh Steelers, what was your mindset? What was your preparation like during the course of that week, Kenny, when we were getting ready to play Pittsburgh?
Well, I think a lot of it, that's where the zone blitz started a lot with Dick LeBeau. And so you spend extra time on the film trying to know how I can make sure that I'm protected, so you don't have to throw hot into the zone blitz. And although their scheme is a little bit different now, it's always going to be based on pressure. And so I think the big thing for the quarterback is knowing how can I make the protection better? Do I have to adjust it one way or the other? Do I have to keep the back and, totally change the protection? Or, and sometimes, depending what it is, I'd like my hot in this situation. I'm going to go back and it's, you remember something, well, here they're going to come the safety, with the safety blitz. Can I pick it up? Now I like that backside slant throwing it hot. Let's just go ahead and do that on this play because I like the way the cornerback was playing. So it takes a little extra preparation for the quarterback.
I always, thought that yourself, Ken Anderson, you were a triple threat guy. You could run. I mean, people, I think at times didn't realize what an outstanding athlete. I mean, you could run, you could jump, you played basketball at a high level. I mean, you could do a lot of things athletically. So you could hurt people with your feet, you could hurt people with your arm, and you could hurt people with your mind. Because you're one of the smartest people I've ever met, never mind smartest football players. Joe Burrow's got a lot of that. I mean, Joe Burrow can hurt people with his feet. He can hurt them with his arm. And he's got that high football intellect, that high football IQ like you've got.
No, there's no question about it. And he makes strategic runs. All of a sudden it's that run up the middle and knowing when it kind of opens up. There's, there may be an RPO every once in a while, but he's not going to run the ball on design quarterbacks run. Where, with us, we did a lot of the keepers, especially when Lindy and Fonte came, and that's where a lot of my running yards came. But I think, he's really smart. If you see man coverage and you see the Red Seas part in front of you, you're the only guy that's not accounted for. And if you take that up the middle, he's had a lot of success doing that.
Yeah, I think one of the great trivia questions in Bengals history, 1981 Super Bowl 16 season. Who's the second leading rusher on the football team? Number 14 in your program, number 1 in your heart, MVP.
Well, here's one for you, Dave. Of all ball carries with over 100 carries, who has the highest rush per attempt or highest yards per attempt rushing?
In Bengals history?
Correct.
That would be you, my man.
6.5.
How about it? How about it?
Yeah. Collinsworth didn't have that many attempts, but I think he was -5. I looked that up one day.
Oh, man. So in your mind, if you had to pick one thing Cincinnati Bengals have to do to come out victorious against Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh on Sunday afternoon, and man, okay, I'm glad that game was flexed, my man. I'm glad that it's not Sunday night football anymore. I'm glad that it is it's Sunday afternoon football. There's no question.
You just didn't want to get home late at night again.
I didn't. But the team has lost 13 straight road primetime games, worst in the NFL.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, don't want any more of that. Don't want any more of that. Give me one thing. If you all the things that are going to be factors in this football game, what is it in your mind that is the biggest?
I think it's going to be our offensive and defensive lines and who can control the line of scrimmage. For us offensively, it's being able to run the football effectively. You may not get 200 yards again, but you've got to run it effectively. And when you do throw the ball, you got to give Joe a little bit of time. And by the same token, from our defensive front, we can't let Pittsburgh control the game running the football, and make it easy on Kenny Pickett. Make them throw, and then you can go ahead and give a variety of coverages, different looks, different blitz packages you want to come with. But if they're running the football successfully, then it's going to be a long day.
Well, all I can say is you were unbelievably respected, and rightfully so, by the Pittsburgh Steelers, the great Pittsburgh Steelers teams and those great defensive players. You went 20 for 22 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. How the heck do you do that? 20 for 22. And you always played well against Pittsburgh. We always gave Pittsburgh battles. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, great players, the Joe Greens, the Lamberts, the Jack Hams, all those guys always had all kinds of, respect for Ken Anderson, and rightfully so.
Well, I think it was different back in those days, Dave. We had a heated rivalry, a physical rivalry, but I think there was the respect between the two teams and the players. And somehow lately in the last several years, it's kind of lost that, and the chippiness is there. And you go back to, the playoff game, we lose when, Burfict has the cheap shot across the middle. It became a different kind of series, and like I say, it was two very good football teams playing back in our day, and that had respect for each other. And like I say, and the way you want to get respect again in this league is to win. And I think the Bengals got a good shot at it.
Well, there's no doubt that you're the greatest player that I ever played with, and had the opportunity to be a teammate with and be a roommate with. I mean, I was like, can't believe that I'm rooming with Ken Anderson. Are you kidding me? I'm rooming with Ken Anderson. This is unbelievable.
Well, and I said, I can't believe I'm rooming with Dave Lapham.
Yeah, right. I bet.
I got time to tell one story, Dave.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get out.
It's 81. I'm the MVP of the league, and we go to Pontiac. And you and I go up and we go up to our room, and there's no bed in the room.
Yeah.
I said, Lap, MVP, we got a suite. And we're opening the doors on the side, and they won't open. And all there is a pull-down bed out of the wall. And I said, I like you a lot, Lap. We ain't going to stay here together.
Oh, man. Unbelievable. Pulling it down from the wall. That was crazy.
It would have been crowded. I could have fit with somebody else, but not with you.
No doubt about that. Totally concur. Hey, this has been awesome. Appreciate you carving time. You're the best. Nobody knows more about the Bengals-Steelers rivalry than number 14 in your program, number 1 in your heart, legendary, should be Hall of Famer, Ring of Honor member, Ken Anderson.
Well, Dave, let's talk again, late in the season when it's playoff time, because we got to get us back in the playoffs, and then we'll do this again.
That dog will hunt, sir. Thank you.
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realize self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Opportunity knocking.